You gotta zoom out some.
Zoom out some?
Yeah, I was zoom in some.
Zoom in some.
Zoom.
Good morning. We are live.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, y'all. We're still.
I'm so scary. Look at
Hey,
this.
you're not scary looking. For the love of
How'd you do
Pete.
that? You just went out there.
Y'all. She says, I'm so scary looking. Good morning. Welcome to a Monday. Beautiful Monday. Another Monday. Start of a new week. Boy, her coffee smells good. Good morning. Hope everybody's great. Everybody's wonderful. And everybody's fantastic. Good morning, Anna. Good morning, Facebook user. Good morning, Lynn. With a star. Who's the Facebook user with the sun? Is that... I'm guessing Heather B. or Brooke Watkins, because we did get a message from Brooke that she's awake. So I'm guessing Brooke's on here. So if you would please identify yourself. Y'all know that how this how this works. We want y'all to tell us good morning when you get here. Let us know that you're up and awake and with us. If you're
You have it really bright. Oh, he's a lot brighter in the mornings than I am. If y'all can see how much light's happening in this house. It's so bright in here.
It's such an easy operation when it's a one-man show. But when excuse me, just 1 second.
Lord, good gracious. Goodness gracious. It's right in here now.
Is that better?
Yes, better. Just so I can look a little closer at the camera. There, now we can look, and it looks like I can do that, but it looks like we're a little.
Hey, Max, I don't know. The StreamYard, I think the Facebook thing sometimes kicks y'all out, so it kicks your names out. So you have to refresh that just to make sure it's still good. And you don't know until you don't know, so it's too late now. But right. Good morning, Mags.
Good morning.
And I'm gonna open up my iPad that way I can see who it is. I can't. It doesn't show up on StreamYard, but it'll show up on my iPad, so I'll look and see.
You may have to click the link. Gives you the ability to put your name in there. The live link.
Somebody, you're.
I know, but it's you have to push back down a little bit. Otherwise, I see the bottom of the screen. There.
Good.
I think so.
Okay. I hope you guys had a
Sorry,
fantastic weekend. We had a good weekend. Y'all don't know how much fun this is to have my wife here.
The camera, I feel like I'm sorry.
That's where you gotta go, baby.
I know. I just gotta get this switched a little bit. I feel like
it's okay. You gotta do your thing. You gotta do your thing.
Right, cool.
So welcome to our first episode of Welcome to Monday.
Y'all.
Hey, Michelle T.
If y'all only knew what, look at this techno. Is that Maggie saying that?
I think so.
Is it Maggie doing that? Being all funny and whatnot. So, if y'all only knew what it took me to get to Nashville, and I lived out for every good thing that's trying to happen, something bad's trying to stop it. So I left Hartwell Friday afternoon, had a flight booked, ready to come to. I don't know if it's.
Just keep going.
Ready to get to Nashville. Even told Aaron, booked it in plenty of time.
Yeah.
Had plenty of time to get there. I said, if I leave here by such and such time, I'll get there. I know y'all think, I know where y'all think this is going. Okay. There's a plot twist, but I know y'all think this is going towards she missed the flight.
She didn't.
She didn't miss the flight.
She would. To be perfectly technically honest, there's a strong possibility when she got to the airport, the flight may or may not have been there when she got there. That's possible because she was like razor thin close. But go ahead. I digress.
I was razor thin close, but I had time to get there. I could have executed. I would have made the flight. There was a question as to whether or not my luggage would have been on the flight. That was really the only question.
Gotcha.
If I was going to get there on time to get my luggage on the flight, for both of us to make it on the flight. But what happened was I'm driving and I'm talking to Aaron, and I had a lot of things I had to get done because I knew when I left Hartwell, I had to get everything done because a lot of times I'll have time to like do part of it and then I can catch up the rest of it. Like by the time I get to the airport, or I can kind of split the responsibilities up. I couldn't because of the timing of how it needed to be. I would not have been back to a place that I could have done anything until it was too late. Like everything would have been passed. So I had to get everything finished. Had a couple other things that had to happen. A couple of conversations that came up that needed to take place. And that's just kind of how my mornings day.
Yeah.
Those things happen.
Right.
So I get in the car. I was probably, I'm gonna say 20 minutes later than I wanted to leave. But keep in mind, for those of y'all that know me,
on the ish.
No, I was about 20 minutes later than I wanted to leave. But for those of y'all that know me, in my mind, I typically work in about 30 minutes. Even when I tell myself, one of those conversations I have with myself about when I need to leave. So
morning, Alex.
Good morning. So she didn't leave by a certain time. She would probably have missed it. So I would have missed it. Like there's a chance, but we don't know that because I'm driving down the interstate. By the time I talked to Aaron, I'm already almost to Commerce. He thought I was just now leaving Hartwell. Whenever I was calling him, he thought I was just leaving Hartwell, but there had actually been a continuation of some conversations that happened in the car. That I said I got to get in the car. I'll call you back. Whatever. Finish that conversation there. So we're driving, and I know where I was. I was passing Brazelton whenever I got the message, and I'm on the phone with Aaron. And I see this notification. You know how like your notifications like pop up on your phone, but then they go away. So I'm driving and I'm not really trying to look for a notification, but I asked him, I said, hey, do me a favor. Go look at your Delta app. My flight's 2307. Go look at your Delta app because I could have sworn I just saw a notification. My flight's been canceled. That's odd. He's like, was it bad weather? I said, look out. Nope.
It was windy in Nashville. Good. I mean, it was windy here, but it wasn't awful.
Weather looks good. I don't know what could happen. Why my flight would be canceled if that's in fact true. So I pull up my Delta app and I just look at the status of my flight, and it still says on time, when it's supposed to schedule to start boarding. So then suddenly my Delta app won't load, and I'm refreshing it, and I'm refreshing it. Delta app won't load. So he looks up the flight number, and sure enough, it's been canceled. I'm like, well, that's odd. Wonder what happened. Like, that's strange. Like, just randomly canceled this Delta flight. Because Delta, like Southwest, gets canceled a lot.
Delta usually doesn't do that.
Delta usually, even
out of Atlanta. Out of Atlanta, Delta's usually really, really good because obviously that's a Delta hub.
Right. So even like when we've been at hockey tournaments and stuff, we've had people like panicking because all their flights got canceled. Delta, our flights, all good. Never get canceled. So I was like, that's weird. I wonder what happened. So anyways.
Come to find out they were hijacked.
It suddenly, I still don't know what happened. But suddenly, so I look and I'm like.
Pickle slicer incident.
Well, do what?
There was a pickle slicer incident.
there may have been a pilot and the pickle slicer incident. It could have happened. So
which happens if y'all haven't heard.
So anyway, I'm like, you know what? I don't have to. So he's looking at the flights, and suddenly I look, and like the next, because I knew there was like the flight I was going on. Then there was another flight that was like an hour later, which the reason I didn't book that hour later flight was because of the timing of the hockey games. And I knew that Aaron wouldn't be able to get me from the airport because I was flying here and Jagger had a hockey tournament this weekend. So I look and I'm like, well, wait a second. The 5 o'clock flights, the next flight was sold out. It says sold out. So suddenly on the Delta app, all the flights for the day were sold out except an 11:10 p.m. flight. Now keep in mind, y'all, I was headed for a 3 o'clock flight. I'm not 8 hours early to anything, period. Like, I'm not, for those of y'all that don't know me, I'm not sitting around and waiting.
She's not 8 hours ahead of the next. She's not 8 hours early for the next day.
Right. I'm not sitting around waiting for 8 hours at the airport
to
get on a flight. It ain't happening. So I said, I'm gonna call Laney and see if Laney's at home. See if I can come by and see Laney, because Laney lives like 20 minutes from the airport, 14 minutes to be exact, at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, anyways, so I call Laney. She's like, "Yeah, I'm home." So I go by there. I'm like, I'll just stop by there, get some work knocked out, figure out the Delta situation, because I'm not waiting for an 11 o'clock flight. I'll either get back in my car and drive to Nashville, or I'll figure out something else, because I'm not going at 11 o'clock at night to the Atlanta airport and having her drop me off and come back. So anyway, so I look, and we're sitting there, and Austin was going to play golf, and he was hanging out with Laney too, and he was leaving to go play golf. And I guess it worked out perfect that she didn't have anything to do that night. So we had a mom and daughter night. It was fun. We watched a great movie about young Queen Victoria. It was fantastic. If y'all have not seen it, I think it's on Netflix. It's a great movie. You should watch it if you're into the royals, which we are. So I'm sitting there, and I book a flight for the next morning. I told Aaron, I said, I've got an 8:30 flight booked, 8 o'clock flight, but 8 a.m. flight booked. I'll come and because we had some other things that we were doing Saturday. We had a appointment with a prospective agent in Tennessee that involved a round of golf. So Aaron wasn't gonna miss that. I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting up that night, and I'm looking, and the flight that was the 11 o'clock flight. Now keep in mind, y'all, I'm already good. Okay. I've already got my 8 a.m. flight figured out. So I'm on Delta app trying to figure out how to cancel, because they didn't cancel my flight. They just rescheduled it. I take that back. They did cancel my flight, but they immediately booked me onto another flight, in which case with Delta, they won't refund your miles and they won't refund all your stuff if they've got you on another flight. They'll let you cancel it, but you guys submit it for a refund request and all this fun stuff. So I get to the airport the next morning. We get up the next morning. I don't sleep good. Dingus loves to have his spot in the bed. He's used to being the only other in his mind human.
Right.
The only other person in the bed is him, and he doesn't like that. There was me, and he kept trying to nudge me out of the way. So anyways, I get to the airport. That flight that was my original 3 p.m. flight on Friday, that then became an 11 p.m. flight, had been postponed to 2:07 a.m. I would have been so hot if I'd actually gone back to the airport to be there.
Oh my gosh.
And then be postponed to 2 a.m. Then when I'm sitting on my flight that I'm actually getting on, like I'm on the plane, on the flight, that same flight, the 11 p.m. flight from the night before, had been postponed yet again to 9 something. I quit getting notifications for it. I don't know if that flight ever made it where it was going. I don't know if it ever made it to Nashville. It was crazy. It was the craziest thing. So I don't know what was going on, but Nashville is having Atlanta Delta was on the struggle bus on Friday for sure. But it ended. So again, what normally
they probably were waiting on a part.
I know. So the whole for what every good thing that's trying to happen, something bad's trying to stop it.
Yeah.
So when I finally got here, I was very, very low on rest because I hadn't slept good at all, and there just the stress of the whole flight thing was a little bit crazy. But when we got here, it's like everything kind of fell into place. Just like it was almost just kind of like, okay, we just kind of and we have to do this sometimes. All of us do. You just have to kind of pick up where it might not have gone how you planned up to that point, but you can't you can start exactly where you get there and keep going, or people can sit there and let whatever led up to this point that you're at right now, you can let that affect everything moving forward, or you can say, okay, we're here now, we can do this, and don't let all the things that might have led up that didn't go the way you had planned for them to go, or that you didn't think they were right. It didn't go the way you thought it was supposed to.
Yeah. So resilience,
right.
Resilience is the word that's in my head because, and I don't know, everybody's heard of Murphy's Law, right? So Murphy's Law is if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. And when I was studying,
I thought it was for every.
No, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. It's Murphy's Law.
Got you.
And a very negative, pessimistic way to look at the world. But when I was, when I was a police officer studying wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and I studied all that stuff, they always had their eye out on Murphy's Law because they could lay all these plans together. Right. They could because if you've ever paid attention and read any autobiographical novels or anything about a Navy SEAL operation, those guys plan extensively. I mean, down to the where you're going to sit on the helicopter in the last final approach. I mean, they are planning that. They build mock-ups, they build little cities. I mean, their planning is unbelievable. But then when it all goes down, when it's time to go in and make it happen, that's when the feces hit the oscillator. And when
The
the feces
feces
hit the
is
oscillator,
that's when the little brown emoji shaped like that.
yeah,
It's the swirly thing.
yeah, when the turds hit the air device, that's when Murphy's Law shows up, right? And if you've heard the story about when they shot Bin Laden, one of the helicopters crashed. I mean, they crashed a helicopter, so obviously you don't plan for the helicopter to crash,
Right.
but when it crashes, you got to just keep rolling. You got to be resilient. You got to keep the goal in mind. You got to
When
the
you plan
the
that
operate.
there's going to be something unexpected, it's a lot less unexpected.
You plan for it to be perfect, but you expect Murphy's Law. You expect whatever can go wrong is going to go wrong,
Right.
and you just keep on rolling. And they keep the goal, what they're trying to accomplish, as the single focus point of the entire thing.
Right.
So when all this is going wrong, right?
Mhm.
This is the single focus point. This is where I'm going. So let's just keep on moving that way. A real estate transaction is the same exact way.
Yep.
I mean, when there's so many things that go along with in a real estate transaction, and everything.
I'll give you all an example of one last week.
I mean, everything feels fantastic when you first meet them. Everything feels wonderful when the first couple, 2 or 3 times you go over there and talk to them, and their smiles and your smiles. But then when the contract happens, when the negotiations start to happen, when babies are throwing up and babies are sick, and when
The
thi-
seller doesn't want to sign papers
stuff when
that
stuff
have to
happens,
have to be done for a closing. Right.
it's our job to be that mission leader. It's our job to be that one out front that says, "Hey, look, just a reminder, this is our goal. This is what we're
Right.
trying to accomplish. This is where we're going. I'm
Right.
going to help you get there. Let's just let's keep going this way.
That's
Let's
right.
keep going this way." And so and this one right here beside me is amazing at figuring out
I
ways
don't know if amazing, but
just to keep it pushing.
seeing a
When
lot.
everything is falling apart, she's like, don't worry about that. We can do this. We can do this. We'll put this ketchup on that. The carrots go right there. The string will tie this tarp right here together. And we're rock and roll. Let's go. And that's what she does. And that really is one of my downfalls, because if it doesn't go like I want it to go,
Oh yeah.
I,
You
I,
can
I,
you
I
you
just
can
sit.
he can derail quick.
I'll sit and just get pissed because it's not going like I want it to go. And she's like, "Well, don't get mad. Let's just keep rolling. We can make this thing work. Let's just come on." So that's one of the wonderful things about you, and one of the things about you guys to learn in this business and in life, the resilience. I mean, go back to that story about Rich Strike.
Yep.
The resilience, this is the goal. This is what we're going to do. This is what's going to happen. Then it didn't happen. And then there was the upset and oh my gosh, we worked so hard to get here. We've done all this for it not to happen,
Right.
for then to get the opportunity. And now we have the opportunity. Let's go make the best of it.
Right.
And the only one that expected it to go the way it went was the horse. He was really the only one that expected it to go
he's the only one that didn't expect it.
He's
to
the only
not
one.
go the way-
He's
yeah.
the only one that believed he could win. The horse
Yeah.
was.
He's the only one that didn't know he wasn't supposed to win.
He had no idea. He
Had
didn't
no
listen to
idea he
everybody
wasn't
else.
supposed to win.
He didn't listen to anybody else. He's
Right.
like, "You put me out there, watch this, watch what happens."
Yep. Yep.
All right. And so when the jockey's riding, and the jockey said, "I didn't know we could win for like 70 yards out. I didn't know what he had in him until
Right.
about 70 yards from the finish line."
Right.
And then he said, "I gave him a little bit,
Right.
and he kept giving me more, and I kept asking for a little bit more, and he gave me some more." And that's
Yeah.
when Rich Strike knew he could win. So when you know you can win, when that's in your head, and you know you can
Or
win.
again, when it's, even if it's not the pure 100%, because a lot of times, so what do we say? What do we say confidence is? Is it's a series of successful, it's a series of events that end, that end a
Right,
certain way.
right.
He'd only won one.
But
Had he ever won a race?
so here's the
Won
problem.
the
No,
one? No,
he
that
won
horse
it. That horse.
That
didn't.
horse had not ever won a race.
Here's the problem with confidence.
Right.
The problem with confidence is it's based on past events.
Correct.
So if your confidence is based on the fact that you've never won anything, if your confidence is based on the fact that you've come in second, if your confidence is based on you've never been to the finish line, you have a really hard time. A lot of times you play not to lose versus playing to win.
Correct. Which is why I'm saying that it's not so much that the horse knew he could win or that somebody knows they can do this. It's not that they don't know they can't do it. He had no idea he couldn't win.
Well, he was a horse.
Well, I mean, or I see people that jump out there in real estate and are wildly successful only because nobody ever told me I wasn't supposed to be successful, right? And I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to be successful. I just jumped out there and did it.
Yep.
You know, I just jumped out there and did what I know to do. That's all I did.
Yep.
That's exactly, to be honest, that's exactly how I got started in real estate. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know all the ingredients and what it was supposed to look like when I first started in real estate. I didn't have, y'all, for you brand new agents on here in our company or who came to our company brand new, if you knew what my real estate career looked like when I started, seriously, my real estate career looked like I met with the broker who worked out of a completely different office, and he was in an office every single day. He had an office. He went into his office every single day. He was available by phone. If you wanted to see him, you would come to his office. He wouldn't come to where you were at. He might stop by if he was on his way through Livonia, because I was up in Livonia, on his way to see his daughter up in Toccoa. He might stop by the office, pop his head in and say hi. But there was never a time when there was a intentional purpose, like he was in that office for an intentional reason to like have a meeting, or they didn't have those kinds of things. Nothing like that. I literally was pointed. He told me how to get to what the address was of the office I was going to. I walked in, introduced myself to one of the people that was there in the office. They pointed me to an office. They said, well, you can use that office if you want to. It had desks stacked on top of another desk upside down. It was like the storage room. I'm serious. So I had to figure out. Welcome to real estate, man. Welcome to real estate.
I told y'all
that's the way. That they point to it and say, "Here's the copier. Here's the break room. We'll get you some business cards."
Did they pat you on the butt when you walked by?
They didn't pat me on the butt.
Okay.
Well, that lady might have, y'all. I mean, the secretary. She was super nice. Their bookkeeper worked out of that office. She worked 3 hours a day, like 3 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happened that she was there the day that I came in that morning, and maybe she was there because she knew I was coming, because he said there's a new agent coming. But I'm not kidding y'all. I had to move desks off the desk that I was supposed to be working at to try to make it like something that I could work with.
Right.
There was an old phone book in there. Guess what I did? When I sat down, I literally, there was a computer that I plugged up and got to work, because at that point I was brand new into real estate, y'all. I was not used to not functioning in a, I was not used to not functioning in a way. You can't mute yourself because then they can't hear me.
We'll hear it. My son,
so I was not used to not functioning in a way that you're supposed to function when you go to do a job. Like if I'm told to report somewhere, that my mind couldn't wrap around not being prepared to get in there and start doing something. So I get all this. Sorry, I'm trying to use Aaron's AirPod that came in. Can y'all still hear me? Let me make sure y'all can hear me. Somebody give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me. Well, who's the Facebook user that said my broker told me to fake it till I make it and sent me on my way? If that's a brand new agent that I'm the broker that said fake it till you make it, I'm hoping that's me. Who is that said that? Oh, is that Anna that said that? Anyway, no, Anna just gave a thumbs. Okay, y'all can hear me. So to say that you guys don't realize how good and how different it is for even for this interaction, to have access to this, or to have access to Aaron and I sitting out. Oh, Melissa Parks. Yeah. So Melissa, so you know what I'm talking about. I literally got a phone book and just started calling people. I didn't even know what to say. I just started calling people. I got a newspaper, looked up for sale by owners, called to see if I could come take a look at the house. I did things that I just kind of thought made sense to me in real estate. I had nobody guiding me on my way. I did ask. I was there, and this was Coldwell Banker. Now keep in mind, Coldwell Banker is where I started. That company, just as a whole, their kind of model is people come in the office, You do what they call floor time. You where you get if a call comes in or something, whoever's on floor duty, which by the way, I realized very quickly would not whenever I opened my company and I started the Exit Realty office, I knew for a fact my policy would not be this way because their thing was the listing agent could be sitting in the office, okay, there physically at the office, and a call comes into the office, and the floor agent answers the phone, and if and this is what would happen. I had one time a floor duty agent walk in to my office where I was and say to me, and with a little note, a little post-it note with a name and a phone number and a property address that was one of my listings that said, someone just called in on this listing. It's your listing. If you want to take that buyer, you can just pay me a 25% referral on it. On my listing, I was in the office, and their policy was that if the call came in, the floor duty agent got all the calls that came in the office that day. She walked over, had no interest in working that lead, and walked over to me and said, if you want to work this lead, here's their name. And which is why you guys, that's crazy. You guys know, I mean, if somebody calls in on one of your listings, you don't have to be in the office. We're going to do everything possible to make sure you get that phone call on that listing if it comes in through an office number, through the office numbers. So, or even through an inquiry on the website, you're going to get that lead. So, because I believe that the listing agents work hard to make the phones ring, and they get that. But the point is that I didn't really know how to be successful. I didn't know what it was going to take to be successful. So I just went out there and wide open. Kind of that conversation about Rich Strike. If you don't know you're not supposed to be successful, oh, here, you need this back. Sorry. If you don't know you're not supposed to be successful, then you don't know. You just go out there and do it. Now, with parameters, you can't be a wild rogue agent and just go out there and do crazy stuff. Right, Melissa?
And I think, and I honestly think that's why your real estate business takes on, and it's taken on, and looks the way it looks now, because you got in, you came in at a time where you just figured it out. You didn't necessarily have any structures. You weren't taught to do this way, and this way, do it this way or do it that way. You just came in and did it.
Right.
She just did the damn thing.
Carrie Leland said, her leader said, go make a mess and we'll figure it out. Carrie's like, I'm sorry, what? Right. Yeah, that's not how this girl's world operates.
She would.
I would.
She could do that.
Like now, Carrie, I have complete confidence that if a new agent of ours makes a mess, I can probably figure out how to fix it, or at least I can figure out how to throw myself upon the mercy of the court and beg for forgiveness.
Which is why we teach.
I don't encourage it, but I think I could do it.
But that's why we teach structure. That's why we teach do things a certain way, because your personality may be such that you like to have the freaking dump truck load full of mess, and you can make it all work. But we want to start with our new agents,
right?
Structure, right? And putting pieces in place that you can use whatever you can use whatever feels good to you to use in your business,
right?
Use whatever you can use that helps you do more in less time. That's really the whole point of structure, is to help it go faster for you, to help you. There's a
certain type of mess I can handle, and there's a certain type of mess I can't, that we can't do anything with.
Right.
There's certain depending on the type.
Sometimes.
Yeah, because depending on the type of mess it is, I mean, as long as it's not anything that's violating license law and gonna lose your license and mine, I can normally work around those and then teach you basically. And this is what I told. I had a conversation yesterday with Cade, and I said, Cade, sometimes, because he and I were we dropped Aaron and Jagger off, and we were going to get an SD card for his camera. And I said, sometimes you just have to kind of jump out there and just start. You got to do something. And sometimes people get frozen, paralysis by analysis. Like they try to make sure everything is perfect before they take that first step. And I think that can be equally as dangerous to a successful business. And yes, exactly. Well, again, because that comes from, and what Melissa just said is true. And for you, those of y'all that can see the comment, she says, when you tell a new agent to learn the fundamentals by taking the new agent training, they get mad and just would rather run crazy. If they're not willing to take, if I say that, and so within context, we say, go if you've got somebody who's there, and now we have a mentor program in place with our company for new agents when they come in, they're going to have someone that can help them. We've put those structures in place that we were missing for a while when a lot of y'all came in. You guys just had us, and if you've got a question, you're available to call us and say, "Hey, I got this situation
Right.
going on. Call us." Now, what we don't want happening is if you've got the ability to have that resource, we don't want you going, "Well, I don't need to use them. Chrissy said I can just go out there and make a mess and she'll clean it up." No, that's
Right.
not at all what I'm
Right.
saying. So, but sometimes you grow the most, not necessarily by none. And I used this example with him yesterday. If you come right straight out of the gate and everything you touch turns to sold and you've not had any setbacks, you don't know what to do when you have a setback. You have not mentally been able to process failure. And when somebody, all they've done is win,
Mhm.
and they've never had to process failure or loss,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Then when a loss does happen, they have no idea what to do. There's some Clemson football players that went almost an entire 4 years of their college career never experiencing a loss.
Mhm.
There's Alabama football players that went their entire college career never experienced a loss,
Mhm.
okay? And and when a loss happens, they have no idea how to deal with it. Sometimes we got to let our kids fail as long as they can fail forward, and we can help pushing them get up and keep going, because I think you grow through those storms.
Growth growth always comes from discomfort. Growth
Yep.
always comes from being uncomfortable. You got to put yourself in uncomfortable places to grow. I mean, that's the way that works. That's the way nature is. Growth is a product of discomfort. That's just the way it is. There's
Yep.
no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's funny that you're talking about it because my dad was a Southern Baptist preacher, and he always used to say, as part of his sermons, and I've heard this over and over and over again, he would put the same analogy in every single sermon. When you squeeze an orange, apple juice doesn't come out.
That's right.
Whatever's inside when you're squeezed
Yep.
is what's going to come out.
Yep.
Right? So, am I too close?
Sorry, I'm just trying to. I can't figure out how to look like I'm straight onto the camera.
You're straight on the camera.
My bad. Okay.
See, that's what it looks like. The camera is what you need to look at.
I'm not used to sharing the
The stage. I don't like sharing the stage. Can you please go someplace? So he always used to say, whatever's inside, when you're squeezed, it's going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't. I'm torn. I want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. You've got to put good things in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put good things in the tank so that when Murphy's Law happens, and it's going to happen, the unexpected is going to happen.
Yep.
If you've been told your entire life, you're the best, you're the winner, you're number one, nobody can beat you, blah, 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 and all of a sudden you get beat, you don't know how to act.
Right.
You don't know how to act. And you're either gonna act like a little wounded puppy who tries to bite you when they've hurt their foot. You're going to show your butt and act in a way that's unprofessional. You're going to do something in reaction to
Right.
not having that ability to get squeezed and
Right.
have you come out instead of this kicking and screaming little child inside there who's never experienced anything other than you're the best. Nothing's ever happened. I mean,
Well, and part of that comes from, so last Friday, whenever we were talking on the call, I may have shared it with you guys that from the time that I started real estate in 2005 up until 2016ish, 2017ish, it was 2016ish. Whenever if for you guys have heard me talk about that poultry farm deal that fell apart, like literally, like it. Talk about from the grassy knoll, like everything's done. There has been countless hours poured into this deal. I'm at my office until 8 o'clock the night before closing, getting all the final things. Buyer's already moved here, already living at the farm, working the farm. We're there. He comes to the office at 8 o'clock the night before to get the final little things that the bank needed, make sure we had everything in place. He's going to meet me at the grocery store, shopping center across the street from where my house was in Royston, like the next morning at like 8 o'clock to go and I was going to drive him to the closing. Okay. And at 7:30, I get a phone call from him. He's halfway back to Boston. Okay. He had literally gotten up in the middle of the night. He was seriously already passed long through South Carolina, like almost like on 95 headed towards Washington, D.C. I mean, like where 85 goes north and then it goes that direction and picks up on 95. He was well on his way back to Boston. He was not closing on this poultry farm. We were literally an hour and a half from the closing. I knew my clients, because I had the seller. Well, I had the buyer too, but I had the seller. I was like, dude, like, are you okay? He's like, I can't breathe. My wife's mad at me. I can't do this. I'm like, you're going to lose a lot of money in earnest money because they put down a lot of money in earnest money. I don't care. I'll lose it. It doesn't matter to me. I'm going back. I'm going back home. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. I can't handle this. I can't handle the stress. And I was like, good gracious. Like, I don't know if like his wife had lit him up that night or what, but I said to him, just pull over, calm down. Don't have a stroke driving down the interstate. Like, make sure you're okay. It's okay. We'll get through this. Just make sure your health wise is okay. So up until about that point, and I shared some things with you guys about even some other agents like that I had dealt with. And I said I could have counted on one hand the number of deals that had fallen apart in my entire 11-year span up to that point that I couldn't put back together. That's not because I only had this number of deals that started to go south. I had a bunch of deals that started to go south.
Right.
But what happens is you stop, you assess a situation, you can't be logical when you're emotional. And that's a proven fact. You cannot think rationally when your emotions have you at a point of being irrational and you're super emotional. It's impossible for those two things to coexist. For rational logic and irrational emotions to coexist is impossible. It just can't happen.
One side of your brain takes over.
So one side of your brain takes over.
The logic takes over.
Right. So you have to almost train yourself to go on autopilot. And that's a learned behavior. And that is an act your way into feeling versus feel your way into acting.
So going back to my example earlier, when the SEALs start running through their drills, they start running through everything and they know which way they're going. When it all hits the fan, that's why they keep that goal number one in their mind. They practice so much that they fall back on their training and they just keep rolling to the objective.
And I say this all the time.
Keep going.
When you don't know what to do what you know to do. Yeah. If there's a situation that comes up and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to fix this. I have no idea what we're fixing to do. You have to be confident enough in your default mode that when you don't know what to do, you do what you know to do. And that's part of damage mitigation, honestly. Yeah. Like anybody if you've ever had a fire drill, if you've ever been in a disaster preparedness starts with, okay, guys, we're going to go back to the basics. We're going to go into default mode. We're not worrying about getting ourselves necessarily out of this disaster at this point, as much as we are is making sure that we are protected. The oxygen mask drops out of the thing on the airplane. You put it on. There's some basic fundamental things that you have to get back to in order to be able to proceed forward and not like completely destroy everything.
See, and I'm not a fan of the hunker down mentality. I'm not a fan of.
I don't think you hunker down and stop. I think it's kind of like Melissa, we talked about. Sometimes when you're driving through that storm, you don't just keep blazing wide open through the storm, not really knowing what's coming. What you do, you don't pull off on the side of the road and sit there. You might slow down, place your hazard lights on, and just keep moving slowly.
Don't stop.
So, because what you know to do when you first start driving, if y'all have ever seen the video of Aaron that Aaron put up of when Cade first started driving, okay, it's almost like it was a very equivalent situation. They could have been pulled over because the cop thought that the driver was high because he could have pulled the guy over and said, "Sir, do you know how fast you were going?" And the guy's like, "No, I don't. How fast was I going?" 9 miles an hour, sir. You were going 9 miles an hour. If y'all have ever seen the video of when Aaron first started trying to teach Cade how to drive,
just see me walking beside the car like
videoing him, and the trees were like moving like it was a slow motion.
Outside the car, walking beside him.
So you don't necessarily, when you first are learning to do something, you take very conservative steps. You proceed with caution. That's all you do is and those are the things you know to do. Okay. Is you just proceed with caution. You proceed being the key word.
Well,
You keep moving unless you're like, there's a big hole in the road, so we're just gonna kind of come this way a little bit to get around it.
well, fundamentally, you can't run until you can crawl.
Correct.
Right? You got to crawl before you can walk, and you got to walk before you can run. So fundamentally, you've got to grow into that place where you can go fast. Kind of like right now, if Christy had. Let's say she didn't own her business. I'm not putting this on her because she'll punch me in my throat. Let's say
I'm in close proximity. I can do that.
Let's say we didn't own Exit Realty Lake Country. Let's say Christy Dwyer was just a real estate agent who worked at Exit Realty Lake Country in Hartwell, Georgia. If you were to give her one deal in a month, she'd get bored.
Very bored.
If you gave her 20 deals in a month, she would absolutely rock all 20 of those deals. And it would be, she'd be like, bam, 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 bam. Some of you, because you've not learned to run, if I were to give you one deal a month, you would say, oh, that's fantastic. If I gave you 20, you'd say, I hate this business. I'm going to quit.
Right.
I can't do this anymore.
Carrie Lee would say, remember that mess my leader told me to make? Oh, ring Christy. Mess is in action.
And then we would say, didn't you want to be busy? Didn't you want to have this goal? Didn't you want to? Yes, but I can't do this much.
Right.
So you got to learn to crawl, then you learn to walk, and then you learn to run. Fundamentally, you have to learn the basics before you become advanced, right?
Right.
You got to learn the little things and be super confident in the little things that you can do before then you start to have the building blocks. So some of you are in the place where you can do 4 or 5 deals a month. Some of you are in the place where you can do 10 or 15 deals a month. And some of you are ready for that 20 to 50 deal a month. You know, Bruce at this point understood this is my limit.
Because this is the thing. This is what you've got to understand. And you've got to have realistic expectations of what that entails. Because if you're closing 4 deals a month, that means you are juggling probably 10 to 12 transactions at a time. Because those 4 deals that close a month, 4 or 5 deals that close a month are the result of you being able to juggle multiple buyers at one time. Because if you're actually closing that many, you got that many more that are already in the pipeline. You don't close 4 deals a month and not have anything in the pipeline. Right. You don't close 4 deals a month consistently, because if you're closing 4 more deals a month in the following month, then you've got that many more buyers. If you know your averages and you know how many people you got to talk to, how many contracts you got to get put in place, because you've got a attrition rate, right? You've got some that are going to fall out. You're juggling a lot of stuff happening in a month. It's not just 6 deals. All of us know it's not a very clean, I have 6 deals that are happening and that's all I'm doing, and I can handle 6 deals. Because 6 deals a month, you can handle. Yeah. I know any of y'all could handle 6 deals a month if that's all you were handling. But that's not all you're handling. Right. You're handling keeping contracts going. You're handling, contracts that just went pending. You're handling all the buyers that you have to work, or sellers that you're having to work with leading up to that point. There's a lot of things that go into the idea of 6 deals a month. So what we try to do is help you guys put those business structures in place. And what we try to do more than that is help you understand how to handle failure, or what appears to be failure, temporary failure, a hiccup, a glitch in the process. Y'all, if y'all could just see what's happening here. Jagger Dwyer could not be any more the polar opposite of my children in Georgia than anything in the world. Not Lainey. Lainey and Jagger are very likely at some degree somewhere genetically connected, because Lainey is equally as forthright when she was in school and getting up. There was one morning that she got up so early and got dressed, and when my mom lived with us in the basement, and went and knocked on my mom's door and said, "Mama, are you ready? We got to go. It's time to go to school. You got to get up." It was 3:30 in the morning. And somehow Lainey was fully dressed, had gotten up, fully dressed. And Mama was like, "Lainey, it's 3:30 in the morning." And Lainey's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Sorry. So if Lainey's on here, y'all have to understand, Lainey is a result of being late to everything her entire life, leading up to the point she could drive, and has never been late for anything since then. Okay. Not once.
Nutrition.
Right? That's called parenting by you don't necessarily have to show them what you want them to do. You just show them what you don't want them to do
Right.
and let them live that out.
Right.
But Jagger Dwyer just walked down here a while ago as we started this call and said, Dad, you didn't wake me up. I got school. Then he walks down like 7 minutes later, fully dressed, hair done, backpack in place, fully dressed. It's crazy, y'all. I have to get some sort of a towing device hooked to Zeke's foot to get him out of the bed.
And or leverage to get him out of the bed.
It's crazy. So anyways, but it's sometimes it's about and I'm gonna go somewhere that I actually told Aaron this weekend, and he got kind of a little bit testy with me about it, but then he understood what I was talking about, because I want to say this. So y'all know I came here. So Jagger's hockey season's over with. Okay, like his season ended a month ago, 6 weeks ago, his official season. Well, one of the dads came up because, as with every time we see this happen every single season, a new group of kids. Hockey is very much a sport that is reliant. The success of the team is reliant on the chemistry of the team. Okay, it is one of those sports that those kids have to. They got to figure out when one's bobbing, the other one's weaving. Like that, just that chemistry of the lines. If any of y'all are familiar with hockey, and based on the thing I did at the office the other day when I did the little tick marks on sports, not very many of y'all are familiar with hockey. Your extent of hockey knowledge probably comes from these conversations that we've shared with you. So it's all about the chemistry of the team. Probably if you're familiar with lacrosse or soccer, similar thing is where where the other person's going to be at that moment. Plays in football, they give them a playbook and they know they're going to run it. It's a lot more technical. It doesn't go by feel nearly as much. There's not as much.
Not near as much. It doesn't appear to be very structured.
Yeah,
but it is.
But it's very, very structured. So it takes this team learning one another and these boys developing a chemistry, and they've got them on certain lines, and they know if this happens, and if I'm here and I shoot the puck this way, I'm expecting someone to be over here, and if they're not, then that puck goes a different. So it's very, very looks fast and chaotic, but it's not supposed to be. It's not intended to be. So at the end of the season, when their season ended, the kids were like, trusting that you're going to be there. You have to, and this weekend was a perfect example of that. And I'm going to say what trusting one another, what Carrie said. So it takes them a long time, even in the beginning of the season, even when Jagger was playing offense, that was his only position, was offense. It took Jagger, he could have gotten really, really good at passing at the end of the previous season with his old team. But at the beginning of the next season, Jagger knows his abilities. He knows his ability to take that to stick handle, is what they call it, where they handle the puck and they keep it on their stick by doing this little thing they do and get all the way down the ice. He doesn't know the ability of a person that he could trust, that he could pass that puck to, and they can get it down the ice, because they don't have that confidence built in one another yet. So this weekend was the result of a dad about 5 weeks ago, saying, hey guys, I've found this Can-Am tournament that's happening. It's kind of a pickup tournament. It's not an organized, like you're coming from the Warriors Association that's registered in this. We're going to put together a team of players that's mostly from our team from this last season, because they've all worked together and done it. It was offered to the entire team to go in as a team, but they had to have a certain number of players. So the kids that couldn't participate in the tournament this weekend, they came and they pulled some fill-ins, okay, from other areas. And 3 of them came from out of state. 2 of them came from out of state. 2 of them came from out of state. One of them was a player who's on his upcoming season's team, right? And even some of the kids, because they've already named teams, and some of them are coming from different organizations. Some of their new team members for this upcoming season were actually playing on another team, on the opposite teams. So as I sat there and I watched it yesterday, and I watched, God, these kids are so good. Like, over the weekend, so they had 4 games. They went 3-1 for the thing. But the important thing was they won the championship game. So their team, and this is the first tournament this team has won. Like, we weren't even used to winning very much coming into the middle of the season, because again, that coach had literally taken all these players back, 2 seasons ago. That coach, from even when he was still with the Junior Preds, that coach had
And I see now, I think that what was that coach's name? Was the one from the junior Preds, the one we like. Pat. Coach Pat knew he was coaching kids to fundamentals. He was. Jagger that season, everything happened. Everything that's happened in these seasons, there was a purpose that we probably didn't understand at the time because there was some frustration. But I had said to Aaron, I said, I'm always one to look for the silver lining in every cloud. And I said to Aaron, when Jagger he was the top scoring offensive player on the team 2 seasons ago, but he probably had the least amount of ice time of any person who would have been playing first line, he didn't have much. Every time he'd score, he might be in there for 8 seconds. If he scored and he was on the ice for 8 seconds and he got out there and got in a play and scored in 8 seconds, they'd pull him right back off the ice. Where other kids were getting 45-second shifts or a minute and a half shifts. Jagger was getting 8 seconds, 15 seconds, 17 seconds. It was crazy, but he still was the top scoring offensive player. And I said to Aaron, here's the silver lining in this cloud, because you are frustrated he's not getting much playing time. And he's scoring the most amount of goals. And we're losing games, and they're taking the top scorer off the ice. He is having the opportunity to watch this game from a different viewpoint. You can't see the picture from inside the frame. How many of y'all sit there and watch game shows and you're at home going, this is what it like Wheel of Fortune. You can clearly see what it says, but when if you were standing up there on the show, the one spinning the wheel, and you're trying to look at it, your whole brain, because the emotions that you're going through, the nervousness, can't let you see what the words are supposed to be. So I said to him, Jagger's had the ability to watch this game because Jagger's very attentive unless he's just frustrated, and sometimes when he gets on the bench and the first thing he does is he goes and he puts his head down. I mean, I know this kid, when he comes off the ice, I can watch him and I know exactly how he's feeling when he gets off the ice, depending on what the first thing is that he does when he gets off the ice. If he walks in, he sits down on the bench, or not walks in, if he skates in, sits down on the bench and his head goes down and his stick's up, and I know he's doing that, he's frustrated. He's talking himself through a situation in his head, or if he feels good about what's happened on the ice, he gets there, he gets back in the line where to go, and he's sitting there watching the game. I mean, he gets up when he puts his head down. He takes 3 or 4 seconds, gather himself, and then he starts watching the game. So but his team learned how to lose. And this is one of the things that we joke about it now, because his coach, one of the coaches who happened to be an NHL hockey player, or former NHL hockey player, would say when they were losing, and I don't mean just losing, getting obliterated at just about every game. And we were so frustrated because we weren't in a house league team. We had paid to be on a competitive travel team. The problem was there was kids that were on that team that had been put on that team based on who their parents knew and how much money their parents had, that didn't belong on that team. And it was hurting the entire thing. But that coach said, huh? New. Oh, God. I see what you did there. I hope y'all didn't catch that very much. So anyways, so I do see sorry, y'all, that just went way in the ditch. But it's very possible that could have. So now I've lost. Okay. His justification would be, these kids need to learn how to lose. These kids need to learn how to lose. And we're like, we get that. And as parents, we have instilled enough respect. It's our job to make sure our kids, a sore winner is worse than a sore loser, honestly.
Oh my gosh.
So much worse. A sore winner is worse than a sore loser, is my opinion. But he almost tried to justify the lack of success on this team when in my opinion it was the coaching, but it wasn't necessarily the coach. It was the style, and it was what the organization and the parents pulling the puppet strings were saying needed to happen. And this coach had been given a team that really wasn't much to work with to start with. There was a few good players, but for the most part, he was given a developmental team to work with that season. And so he had to really coach to the fundamentals, is what he had to do. By the end of the season, that team had developed some chemistry like we're talking about, but it didn't happen until we got to the very, very end of the season. And they may have won a couple of games. They may not. 2 years ago. This past season, y'all, the world of difference. And I looked at Aaron yesterday when we were sitting there looking at this team playing on the ice, who looked like, I remember last season at the spring showcase, I said to Aaron, when we looked at the kids who had been with this coach, it wasn't even an organized organization yet. It was just they'd kind of just done this little test, like
thing on the side
that they entered a couple of tournaments, I guess, but with this team. But I said to Aaron, when I looked at that team that had been under this coach's tutelage for a year, they were a year younger than our boys.
Yeah.
And they were skating all over them. I mean, they were obliterating them. And I looked at Aaron and said, I've seen all I need to see, because I know that these boys that are beating the pants off of our boys that are even older than them and probably have equally as much talent sitting on that ice, I've seen all I need to see. I know that we made the right decision coming here. I know we did. I know, because I can see just in the development, because I know these players that are on this other team that are whipping our pants right now. And I know what they looked like a year ago. And I'm looking at them today, and I see the growth that they've experienced as a result of this coach coaching him the way he does. Yesterday, our team looked the same way. Our boys who have been under this coach's tutelage for a year, almost a year, well, right out a year, because it was spring showcase, look the same. I turned around and looked at Aaron and said, I told you. What we're watching today is exactly what I told you a year ago we were going to be seeing, because we watched. I mean, these boys had it going on. And there was about 3 boys that were not part of the team, okay? And they were very good players. Don't get me wrong. They had not been on the team last season. Excellent players. One of them is coming on the team this year. 2 of them had just come in. They were friends, because, again, you could have taken anybody. They could have stacked the team to come in here and win this tournament easily. These are 2 kids. One of them tried out for the Warriors last year, was going to move here and play on the Warriors, but they couldn't. They ended up not moving here. They stayed up in Chicago. They're from the Chicago area. Those boys didn't pass the puck as much. And I would hear Aaron saying, God, I wish he would pass. He needs to pass. He needs to pass. But he didn't have the confidence in the other players that he could pass, because he hadn't been playing with them. This was his first weekend ever playing with this group of boys. He knew his confidence, and he knew that he could keep that ball on that puck on the stick and get all the way through. And but the number of goals that got missed, because there was one of our guys wide open, he could have passed it to, and they could have popped it in the net. But he didn't have the confidence in the other players, just because that chemistry hadn't been there. So, and I kind of talked about that in the culture that we have at our company, is a culture of, you can trust your people. And for people that come in and haven't experienced that level of connection and trust, I shared with you guys something about somebody who said, that's just not reality, that people help you. That's just not something that happens in this business. So, like, you got to be realistic, and that's not going to happen. And I'm like, I can't speak to that, because that's exactly what happens in our company.
So the crazy thing is, when you look at statistically why agents leave companies, they leave companies because they're not supported or they don't feel like they belong. But then when you talk to most real estate companies and real estate agents, they all feel like they're on an island by themselves, right? So when we have a culture, and it's the same exact thing. This is the same exact thing that we're talking about, is what we saw yesterday is the culmination of belief in the team.
Yep.
The culmination of working together as a unit.
Yep.
The culmination of doing the fundamental things over and over and over again, increasing the speed, increasing the responsibility, just little by little, putting more and more on them, and then watching them come together as a team to work as a unit. Exit Realty Lake Country is the exact same way. We take a bunch of individuals who come from other organizations more times than not, or they come into business without any input at all, or any preconceived notions of what's going to happen. Then we're able to mold them into this team environment. The Saturday conversation that we have with this prospective agent that we play golf with.
Right.
I mean, she wants something to belong to.
Right.
We're in a business that's inherently individualistic, but all these individual agents want something to belong to. And Exit Realty Lake Country provides an environment that you can trust, that somebody's going to be there to accept that pass. You can trust, if I need you, you're going to be there to help me.
That's right.
That's why our culture is the way it is.
And that I can trust that you're not going to take the information that I'm sharing with you so you can help me and use it against me.
Right. Right.
Because so many times people are like, I can't. people don't come in the office because they can't leave their stuff there because they can't trust the other agents that are in their office.
And here's the crazy thing. Because our culture is the way it is, when somebody comes in that's selfish, that's individualistic, that doesn't want to be a part of the team, it stands out. It is so glaringly obvious
Right.
that everybody in the company says, I'm not sure that's the one that needs to be here.
Right.
I'm not sure this one's going to fit. And our job as a leader and as leaders of the company is to see if that's a habitual behavior coming from a situation they were in, or if that's who they are.
Hmm.
Because if it's just an habitual behavior, because that's where they've been, we might be able to get them integrated into Exit Realty Lake Country.
Right.
If it's just who they are, for instance, on this team that Chrissy's talking about, there's not one kid. There's not one kid that skates out on the ice and you go, oh my gosh, that kid's fantastic. Oh my gosh, that's the it kid. There's not one.
Right.
There's not one kid that you see that stands out. There are 15 kids who skate their tails off, who play for each other, who have each other's back, who will fight you for another one. That's what this team has. There are 15 kids. I can look at other teams. The team we played yesterday.
Right.
There's a kid who they try to get the puck to every time he's on the ice because he's the it kid. And they try to make sure that in every situation when he's there, that the puck is on his stick so he can shoot.
Right.
Every time. So it's a pretty easy team to beat. You just take the stick out of his hand, you take him away, and it goes away.
Right.
Our kids, you don't know who to get.
Right.
Because they're all going to get you.
Right.
They're all going to get you. So there's something to be said for a team and a group that's made up of a bunch of people who have each other's backs.
So here's another piece that I want to say. I know he's got to go, but I'm for those of you that want to stay on here, stay with me for a minute because I'm going to say something that I think is fairly important. I've used this example with golf with Carson and his golf career and where he. Sorry, y'all. I'm trying to fit y'all. I don't know what's going on here this morning. Anyway, sorry. The camera's a lot higher than I'm used to it. He's got like mission control center set up here, and it's crazy for me. But anyways, so I talk about Carson and when he started playing golf, and when and he would, he got good. We even leveraged Top Golf. He literally used Top Golf to practice his drive. That kid can drive a ball as far, if not further, than Aaron can. Seriously, y'all. Now, he didn't used to be able to do that. He used to not be able to. But he pushed himself, and he used Aaron as his benchmark to push himself. Who, if anybody's ever been anywhere that you've watched Aaron Dwyer drive a golf ball, he can drive a stinking golf ball. I mean, far, long ways, gone. Sometimes not always in the correct direction that he's wanted to go, but it goes a long ways. He just said easy. but you're going to be leaving here in a minute. I'm going to have to jump off of this because he's going to leave, or I'm going to have the camera come to the computer because you're fixing to take my phone. Yeah. I don't know how to switch it. Hang on a second, y'all. I'm fixing to switch the camera for anybody who wants to stay on here. There we go. Okay. So now I'm back to where I'm used to things. Is the sound still here? Can y'all still hear me? Yeah, you can still hear me. So the what just happened there? You were looking at your camera. Now I think my camera's gone now. Okay, you're still there. Okay. So bye Jaggers. Come here, give me a hug, baby, because I won't see you. Bye. Have a good week. Okay. Bye. So you taking Cooper with you? Okay. So I say this because when he started playing Cuscawilla, he started getting better. He started playing a golf course that was so much harder than the courses he had previously been playing. And that developed. It was frustrating for him because his scores were horrible when he first started playing at Cuscawilla. But once he started playing a harder course, his skills improved as a result of having to play a harder course. So last season, when we were in the new organization, the coach was putting us up against teams that were much harder than anything we had been up against, even in the previous season. And in the previous season, we weren't up against teams that were that much harder. We were still getting beat. Okay. This past season, the coach put us up against teams that were better because he wanted his players playing harder teams because that's what was going to help them improve. He was putting them up against tough. He was putting them through a tougher exercise regimen. He was putting them through a more strenuous workout, even in game situations. So when I say that a sore winner is worse than a sore loser, the previous organization that we came from last year, when we would look, we'd see all the social media posts. They're winning all these tournaments. They're winning all these tournaments. They've won this tournament. They've won that tournament. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, like they must be pretty good. And then we realize what tournament we noticed we weren't in the same tournament at all with them. And there were some tournaments that happened in Nashville, like home ice tournaments, that we weren't even allowed to register for. They wouldn't allow. There was something that always happened that they would not allow our team to register for that tournament. We did get to finally play them at the end of the season, but it was just one of those where, they had developed that same chemistry throughout the season, and they had done. I mean, that team had become pretty good as well, and I think they learned and they did develop some skills, but they also brought some players in that were almost a recruited. Carrie Leland, and I don't know if this is really what happens in Beaufort, but everybody says Beaufort City Schools always recruited in, and that's why their team was always so good. I don't know if that's the truth or not. That's just always the rumors in Georgia. But that even any of the city schools, that a lot of times they would come in, and those were the really, really hard ones to beat, because people would come in and move into the areas and all this stuff and really build super tight, strong programs. As a result of, are y'all not going?
It's raining. They're not going to anything outside. So they're that bouncy house thing, but I'm not going to train.
Perfect. There you go. See, save the trip. So anyways, but what we saw yesterday was that team that we played against in the final championship game was comprised of some of these kids that had been brought in to be on this, what they call AAA team for this upcoming year, which is an elite travel competition, AAA team, which is different than the rankings of where Jagger's in. And we discussed Jagger trying out for AAA. And I said, what's the point? The teams that we're playing are going to be equally as competitive. The teams that Marty puts us up against are going to be equally as competitive as a AAA team. So, and he's having us play AAA teams. And a lot of times the point of a AAA team and your kid being on a AAA team is so that people come and watch, like recruiters for colleges and that kind of stuff. They come in and they watch AAA teams because those were the elite of the elite teams. And we said, if we're going to be playing AAA teams anyways, we're going to be on the same ice that the AAA teams are on. If somebody's there watching somebody else is on AAA team, our kid's automatically getting watched also. So there was a lot of thoughts that kind of went into, does he really need to be on this AAA team and have to jump back into the politics and red tape that go along with the organization that we previously got out of? So what we saw yesterday, though, the lack of sportsmanship, and I made this comment at the end of this, and this is where I was getting to, y'all. So for those of y'all that are still here, hang on because I'm almost done. The lack of sportsmanship that I watched happening yesterday in that hockey rink, that is this state-of-the-art hockey rink. It's the Fordyce Center, y'all. There is so much money that goes. It is the Scott Hamilton, the ice skater, is one of the guys that's behind the Fordyce Center. He's one of the guys that funded and did this. The Nashville Predators fund. There are multiple venues, hockey rinks that are just state-of-the-art, super nice rinks that are here. There's 2 or 3 of them that are the junior. Maybe it's just Bellevue and Antioch. Anyways, very, very, very nice rinks, high dollar rinks. The lack of sportsmanship that I saw happening yesterday in that arena, in that hockey rink, not just on the ice from the other team. The coaches that were on the bench coaching the other team were allowing it to happen. The dirty playing that was happening. The lack of sportsmanship, because this was a pretty intense game. The championship game was. There was a whole big crowd in that rink on the south rink watching this game. I mean, people were just coming in even from the other rink watching this game because it was so intense. It was the Warriors, which is the break-off organization. It was like the church split that happened, and then the church split happened for 1 year, and they were just doing like home church, and they were doing like what's that book called? Underground Church. There was like underground church happening, and they were just kind of getting all their ducks in a row to start an organization. And then the first year, we don't even have a snack bar, y'all. We have like somebody that goes to Sam's and buys boxes of candy and sits them there just as a fundraiser. And we have like a little fold up table that somebody sits behind and sells candy and M&Ms and Snickers bars. That's it. We don't have a concession stand. We don't have anything. We don't have a hot dog machine. So here the underdog team is, the new startup is playing the team that came from, and they've got some fitness company in Brentwood or somewhere sponsoring this team. So that was the name of this team. It wasn't even called the Junior Preds. It was a high dollar fitness facility in Brentwood that sponsored, and they brought players in from all over, from the elite, the AAA kids from all these different organizations in Tennessee or even further to play this game. The kids on the sideline, one of the teams we'd already beat the day before. Now, keep in mind, the team we were playing had also beat the pants off this other team, but they expected them to beat them because they knew this was in that team's minds. This was the elite. They were almost proud to be beat by this team. Like they never one time ever thought, it was never in their realm of possibility. I'm not talking about our team. I'm talking about this team that was on the sidelines outside the rink yesterday, cheering and banging on the glass while our kids were playing. They got beat by this team we were playing also, but they were cheering them on, and they weren't necessarily cheering on the other team. They were cheering against us. They were cheering against the underdog is what they were doing. They were cheering. That team did things that created penalties. This is talking about when somebody gets upset with the person who's doing things the wrong way gets upset with the person who's doing things the right way when they hold them accountable. Okay. That happens. We have a situation that's actually going on right now in our company. It's happening to our company in a few different ways, in a few different angles. We're seeing the same thing happen. Someone does something that doesn't happen the right way. We call them out on the fact that it didn't happen the right way. We are steadfast in doing it and just stay in the course of doing things the right way. And then suddenly we're the bad guy and we're called difficult for doing things the right way. And for being steadfast in our position that we're going to continue doing things the right way, no matter what someone else chooses to do. We're going to do things the right way. And sometimes that means not giving in to the bullying and to the pressure of the person who's doing it the wrong way, okay? Or the litigation that comes from someone who's doing it the wrong way. I am so confident in our position of being right, and that and I don't mean being right from a standpoint of winning. I mean, our position is correct. We've done things the right way, and I'm confident enough in our position that if when it all is said and done, and if at any point someone actually looks at the facts of what's happened, it will be shown that we are right. And we just have to trust that process. So yesterday I'm seeing this lack of sportsmanship happening, and I'm baffled at the fact that the coaches on the other bench that we can see that are almost encouraging, and I can see some of the skaters on the other team that are creating penalties. Who here understands, and Carrie, you're in sports, you know this. I learned it when my son got ejected from a football game one time, when Logan got ejected from a football game. And I'm like, Logan got ejected from a football game? Are you kidding me? Because somebody had come in and punched him, uppercut him under his helmet, and he hit them back. Well, it always happens. The one who gets caught is the one who hits back. The refs never see the instigator. They never see the first low blow. They always see the second one. That's always the one who hits back is always the one who is made to look like the bad guy and gets thrown out of the game or get whatever. Look, I get a call. I'm at a dinner one night and I get a phone call. I was missing his hockey game because we were doing a breast cancer awareness fundraiser called the Pink Partini in Hartwell at Katichi. And I'm sitting at the table with the superintendent's wife, the athletic director's wife, and the head coach's wife, all at the same table. And I get a phone call that my son just got ejected from a high school football game. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm in great company to get this phone call, right? So anyways, it's always the person who is defending the position of right or is responding or reacting. And sometimes we're human, we react. Those are the ones that get caught. So we have to learn not to react. We have to learn to respond. We have to learn to not punch back. Yeah. You're right, Carrie. I mean, Maggie gets the same thing. She gets the calls against her because she's taller and bigger, so they assume she's the bad guy, right? Well, what happens is, and this happened yesterday, is the kid who is the bully. Sorry. Who's doing the bullying? The kid who's doing things the wrong way is the one who starts it, and then our kid one of our kids got, he was about sick and tired of being sick and tired of this kid doing this to the players all game. And we scored a goal, and somebody came and trucked one of our kids into the boards behind the net. And this other kid came in and said, boom, and comes after him. And then, we had an entire fight happening. I videoed an NHL game last night and said we had a similar situation happening on the ice at Ford Ice Center yesterday. But it's because, but I want to finish the sportsmanship conversation. We won the game. We finished and we didn't just win by a little bit, y'all. It wasn't like a nail biter game. I mean, we dusted them. We won 6-2 is what we beat this team. Literally, we scored more points against them in that one game than we had scored on our team in the 3 previous games cumulatively leading up to yesterday's final game. And they only scored 2. We had a total of 8 goals scored against us all weekend. And we scored 6 against this team, which was the elite team, the AAA team of all these different Knoxville, several Nashville organizations. Players were in there. And our kids won with grace, and they won with style. And this other team, they don't know how to lose because their coaches and the leadership of that organization has put them in situations to ensure they don't lose. They're putting them last season, they've been put in tournaments that they would have won because, again, it didn't make sense to us why we were never at the same tournaments with them. Why are they at all these different tournaments and we're not at those? Mm-hmm. But it's because they were putting, if they hosted the tournament, they were making sure that only teams that came in there that they knew they could beat, somehow we couldn't get into these tournaments. Some they were full or they couldn't do this or they couldn't do that. And then these teams were in there and we're like, well, why can't we be in? Aaron would get so frustrated. He's like, it's literally our hometown. Why can we not be in these tournaments?
So we ended up going to Boston twice, to Dallas, to all these out-of-town places. But here's the thing.
And you might not have heard this. I told him because we played against teams that were improving our skill.
Diversity.
We were playing against tougher teams. Yeah. We were playing against teams that had that team been at that same tournament, they would have been obliterated. So what we saw happen yesterday, and yesterday, there's a lot of very talented players on that team that we played yesterday. Yeah. So good.
Really good.
But they were talked up. They knew they had picked the best of each of these organizations and had formed this elite team that had smoked every team they had played. They'd even beat us once. They beat us 5-2 on Friday night. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'd already beat us once. So our boys came in knowing that it was a very real possibility that this team would beat them again. But they also came in with experience. They also came into this game knowing they'd already played this team once, and they were able to get a feel for them. So it wasn't like they were able to almost knock the jitters off because they played that team and they thought, well, they weren't that tough. It was a pretty close game.
I'll keep looking there. Here's the camera.
Yeah.
So on my desk now in Mount Juliet, I've got a little plaque that I found at, I think, Hobby Lobby or something.
Sorry. You had a bunch of wrinkles.
It says winning is a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Vince Lombardi quote, winning is a habit. There are some people that don't know how to win.
Mm-hmm.
They've not been in enough situations. They've not challenged themselves enough, and or they've just not crossed that threshold, made it to the peak, had that moment where they've experienced the win.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they've never experienced the win and what it feels like, they always finish second. They never push themselves to that next spot because they're more confident and or more comfortable in the loss than they are in the win.
Or they haven't experienced the win. So when you get those jitters, you get those nerves like, oh my gosh, I'm fixing to win. They almost derail themselves.
Self-sabotaging thing.
Yes.
I talk about it all the time.
Yep.
It happens in sales. It happens in sports. It happens in all these things. So there is a championship mindset that not only has to be taught, but it has to be absorbed by the players. It has to be absorbed by the people who are competing.
That's
and
right.
I remember Coach Dillon, one of his coaches last year, saying, the problem with these kids have so much talent. They play for each other. They're getting so close. They just don't know how to win yet. And they would have a lead. They have a 2 or 3 goal lead in the third period. And the other team would come back and beat them.
Yep. They would lose a 3-goal lead. Right.
Know how to win.
That's right.
The difference in this team right now, Jaggers team right now, and the team they played yesterday, that team yesterday has got so many it kids. Like the best kid out of their organization, the best kid out of the organization, the best kid out of the organization. the best kid in their parents' household, the best kid. I mean, that's what all, and they've taken this collection of the best kids, right?
Or i.e. a collection of egos.
The best kids, and put them on a team, but they've not been able to assimilate as a team yet.
Right.
Or you can put kids with anybody. I can put a group of people with very high talent and let them compete against other groups of people with lesser talent. And this group of great talent, a lot of times the talent it'll win. This talent will override the lesser talent, and they'll win, and they'll beat them. The problem is when a team like that of individuals of good talent, great talent that hasn't assimilated as a team, when they play a team, a true team, a cohesive team that has relationship, that has
Chemistry.
and personality together,
Yeah.
and then they have each other's backs. When you watch the video of the end of this game, and you watch the excitement on their faces, and you see them hugging each other and grabbing each other, and it was like it was the culmination of all those almosts,
Right.
all those things.
Right.
Yesterday, and this team won't be together probably ever again because, like I said, 3 of those kids are playing at other organizations.
And some of the kids that are on the
going-
team yesterday aren't playing on our
yeah,
team
they're
next
playing-
year.
and there's other kids on the other team coming here.
Right.
So it will be, can we plug these kids in? But there is something to be said for a group of individuals who have a goal, and they won't quit.
Well,
And they won't quit.
right.
And they play together.
Right.
They play for each other.
Right.
They have each other's backs.
It's a culture.
I'm telling you, there's some. So when Christy said this a second ago, there were 8 goals scored against our kids all weekend long.
Yeah.
8 goals. That's it. Scored against our kids. Hell, we were getting beat by 13 and 14 2 years ago. Last year, the beginning of the season, we were getting beat 12-1, 8-1, 9-1. There is a level of dog and competitiveness and fight in this group of kids right now.
Yeah.
That didn't exist.
Because y'all, yesterday's game was it got super intense.
Y'all should have seen all the
It
people
was-
in this rink.
it
I was
was-
picturing all the people.
It
in
was.
This rink.
I shared that. But so here's what I think it boils down to, and I want to say this. And we talked about it in the Kentucky Derby situation that happened, and we talked about it in the championship mindset. And he just pulled this thing up. That team that we played against had been told by everybody, "You're gonna take home this championship. You're gonna take home this win." Even the other teams that were made up of kids, because it was based out of the Junior Preds organization. The Junior Preds organization is the one that put this elite team together. They didn't even have an organization name. They weren't like TCM or TPH. They weren't we were the Warriors, which was our organization. It was a Warriors team that came in, and we registered as the Warriors. There was one that was the Pred Select. They put this was a business name. This was almost like a sponsored race car. Okay, where they had this big high dollar sponsor that came in. All the parents had the hats that had the team name on it. That they had gotten jerseys for all the team that had this elite team. I mean, this came in to be the elite team in this tournament. They literally expected to clean up this tournament and just obliterate everybody, and they did, coming in to the final game. And when they went in that final thing, and again, the horses that were in the lead, the horses that were expected to win, the ones that had all the money put on them, what were their names? The two. It's one started with an M and one started with the whatever it was. The horses that were supposed to win the Epidural, the ones that were supposed to win the Kentucky Derby. Okay, that were the two that in the video we watched that were looking at each other. Messier and Epicenter. Messier and Epicenter. Yeah, those two were looking at each other. They weren't paying attention to the team that they thought, we got this. They weren't paying attention to anybody else, to be honest, because there was really nobody else that was close. They were so far ahead in their minds to win this that, and again, when you don't know how to lose, when you don't know how to lose, when you start losing, it all falls apart. So you get out of your head.
So this is what I want to talk about this week, because I think this is what we're going to start doing. We want to spend, as we develop this mindset of a champion and start developing this thing, I really want to go through this week at a time and take
Right.
one section and go. Because here's the first section. Champions aren't front runners,
Right.
okay? They aren't paper tigers. They're not something or someone that claims or appears to be powerful or threatening, but are actually ineffectual and unable to withstand challenge. So a front runner, a paper tiger, folds when they're challenged. Champions do not fold when they're challenged.
Right.
Champions, when a helicopter crashes, they keep going toward the goal.
Right.
Champions, when it all hits the fan, they keep rocking toward what they've been trained to do.
Right.
They keep going.
They don't go
towards
off the rails.
A front runner is not a champion.
Right.
A front runner may win every now and again, and a front runner could be first in some competitions, but they're not champions.
Right.
They're not the ones that hoist the cup, because champions aren't front runners. Champions will face challenges
And adversity and come through. Yeah.
And they'll stay focused and they'll keep moving toward their goal. And we saw this yesterday when our team got up 1-0. It was still pretty close, right? When our team got up 2-0, you could see it kind of change a little bit.
Yeah. You even saw the shift in the crowd. You saw the kids that came in and were cheering against our team. We're cheering, saying, Warriors suck. I mean, little kids, 8 and 9-year-old little kids are out there screaming this on the ice. It was awful.
When they got up to 3-1, and then they got up 4-1, and then we scored an empty net goal. And I think they may have scored one right there too. So
they did. So it pretty much stayed a 3-game difference until the end. We scored the extra goal.
Guys, I'm telling you, front runners, paper tigers, react to adversity differently than champions.
That's right.
And front runners are people who think they're supposed to be in front, but they aren't actually in front. They react out of anger. When they're squeezed, what's inside comes out. And what we saw yesterday, when those kids were squeezed and when they were faced with adversity and they were faced with challenge, they had not been prepared to withstand adversity. And their reaction was one of anger. It was one of
distaste,
no sportsmanship. They had 2 kids. Jagger's been playing hockey for going on 6 years, 6 or 7 years. I've never seen a kid walk off the ice kicked out of a game. Never seen it. In the 6 years we've been playing, and we play tournaments all over the country, I've never seen a kid get kicked off of the ice. There were 2 from that team that get kicked off the ice. When you're squeezed and you face adversity, what comes out?
Right.
And those kids literally had to walk off the ice and go to the locker room because they were kicked out.
Right. And the referees, by the way, were obviously home. They were Nashville referees. It was very obvious by the way they were calling the game. The other team would do something, and our kid would get put in the penalty box. The second person, not the one who instigated it, but the person who responded or reacted to it, got put in the penalty box. Okay? So we're going to let y'all go because we've been on here a long time. There's 2 of y'all left because we've got one, I think, that's still on it. There's the championship thing. He's so proud of it. And y'all, we're proud of it because what that represents is a lot bigger than just winning a tournament. It wasn't just one. It was like Aaron said, it was the culmination of, and I sent a message to the coach yesterday. Aaron sent a picture to our actual coach, our team coach, and the organization leadership was not the one. This was a pickup. This was literally a pickup tournament that one of the dads who previously played hockey up north said, hey guys, I heard about this tournament. I'll coach it. Yeah. If I can get another dad that'll help coach it, we'll kind of who's in. Yeah. Who's in. And it was a volunteer thing. It wasn't an organized from our organization entry. We used the Warriors name, and the majority, 80% of the team was the Warriors. 85% of the team probably was the Warriors, but it wasn't an organized Warriors entry. We sent a picture of the championship to our actual coaches and the leadership of the Warriors organization and one of the guys said, well, it's all about coaching. And it is. And I went back and I sent a message to them. I'm going to read you what I sent to them because I think it's important that we understand what goes into this, to the winning. And I think it was, here it is right here. I sent this message. I sent a screenshot of it, what I sent to them. I said, hey guys, this is Christy, Aaron's wife, Jagger's other mom. I just want to say this to you. We knew when we made the decision last season to give this new organization a chance that we were doing the right thing, but understood there was some risk and uncertainty, but trusted that you guys were doing this for the kids. Today, after watching these boys this weekend, I'm so proud to be part of the Warriors organization. These boys played hard, clean, and demonstrated great sportsmanship. That comes from great coaching. So thank you. Y'all might not have been on the bench this weekend, but the impact you guys have had on these kids this season was on full display on the ice. And it's true. What those coaches poured into these boys this season was on full display yesterday. What they taught them, how to lose with grace, how to win with grace, is exactly why we want that's who we want to be aligned with. We want to be aligned with leadership. You guys want to be aligned with leadership that knows how to lose with grace and knows how to win with grace.
And there's a standard set, and we're going to meet that standard.
Yeah.
We're going to hold that standard. And if you don't meet that standard, or you can't hold that standard, and truly, it's more a standard for. And I'm going to use this just for this particular organization for the Warriors. It's the kids. There's a certain standard. Because I promise you, if those two kids were Warriors families and Warriors organizational kids,
they would not be
they
part of
would
the
not be
Warriors today.
this year.
They wouldn't be Warriors today.
I
Even
can
if they were
assure
Warriors
you.
yesterday, they would not be Warriors today
I can assure
because
you
the leadership of the organization would have dismissed them from the organization.
that standard is not the one that we're going to have.
That's right.
And that's been set in place from the beginning. And it's so much about the culture.
That's right.
It's so much about the family. It's so much about we're building this the right way with the right pieces. And if you think you're bigger than the organization, you're not for us.
That's right.
And so and that's what. So I mean, I got chills. That's Exit Realty Lake Country.
It is.
There's no one ego. There's
There's-
no one person.
That's right.
Bigger than Exit Realty Lake Country.
That's right.
There's not. And everybody is in this thing. Because I promise you, we've got some champions. We've got champions in this organization. We have people who aren't sure they're champions yet. They got a little feeling inside. They're not real sure yet. And we're going to push and mold and shape and drive them to understand their championship level. And there's some of you who have no clue that are champions waiting to be uncovered.
You know, it's crazy that I'm just now noticing this. I'm wearing a shirt that says Warrior. I just threw on a sweatshirt this morning, and he's wearing his shirt that says Life Champion. How crazy is that? We're gonna let y'all go. We love y'all. Be good.
Be great.
Be you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.